Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to our channel, grecochess. And today we're going to continue the conversation we started last time. Last time, I mean, of course, before we presented the game I had played. We had said that today we're going to discuss what does it take to succeed in chess. Of course, succeed is a relative term. What do we mean by succeed? Clearly, none of us is ever going to become the world champion of chess. Who knows? But most likely none of us. But success meaning doing the very best that you can. What does it take to be successful in chess? Let's start sharing my screen. And first, we are going to see what is irrelevant, what has nothing to do with success in chess, or very, very little. Let's start with the IQ, the intelligence quotient. You know this little test that if you get 100, you're average. If you're below that, oh yeah, good luck to you. If you're above that, wow, you are smart. And if you can hit 150, you can join Mensa. Well, there's been a lot of discussion about these tests. Are you born with your IQ? Does it develop? Does the environment play a role or not? But we're not going to dwell in this discussion now. Just to tell you that IQ has very, very little to do with success in chess. You may have an IQ of 200 and still mess up. Or you may start with a low IQ and, under the correct conditions, be a very successful chess player. Next thing, mathematics, good at math. Once again, has very little to do. You may be able to multiply 10-digit numbers in your mind and do all kind of crazy calculations, prove all kind of theorems, but doesn't help in chess. You can be very, very poor in chess and vice versa. You may know nothing in math about how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like everybody and still be too great. Talent! Are you born with a talent in chess? Again, that is a big debate, but I don't think it plays a big role. And in any case, talent, you cannot change it. But my personal opinion is that talent is not one of the crucial factors. However, there is some kind of correlation, at least with the math, meaning if you're good at math, more or less you excel some of the characteristics that can help you be good in chess. And let's move now and see what is important, how you can do great in chess. And let me share my other screen. And here we are. This is my opinion, and of course, we can discuss it. Your comments are always welcome. What does it take to succeed in chess? And my opinion is that it has to do with personality or character. Now, character has a double meaning because I'm going to distinguish between character in life and character in chess. What do we mean character in life? Which are the people that we admire and respect? One can summarize it, and of course, this list is not exhaustive, but more or less, I think you'll agree with me that in life, we believe that a person has character when they display honesty, integrity, respect for fellow human beings, and of course, I mean all of them, not just your friends or your family. Reliability, you can count on their word. Humility, and one can summarize character as do the right thing when no one is watching, not because you want to show off that you are good, but because this is the right thing to do. Now, these things have very little to do with chess. You can be great in all of them. People may admire you. You may be wonderful. You may be great, but on the chessboard, it does not guarantee success. Well, these are important, especially if you want to make friends in the chess community. You don't just want to go there and show off that you win, but you want to make friends, you want to have a nice time. Yes, these are important, but to win on the chessboard, here there are different things that I mean by a character. Let's continue. What is character in chess? I will divide it into two parts. Outside the chessboard, meaning the rest of your life when you're not playing chess, and of course during the game. Outside the chessboard, because you cannot just go and be your best during the game and ignore chess during the rest of the time. There are some aspects that you need to have consistently. Some of them have to do with any endeavor in life, including chess. For example, the first one, and I believe it's the most important, the willpower and the determination. How much do you really want it? Of course, everybody can say, of course, I want it very much. But what sacrifices are you willing to make? Of course, if it was free, if success was free, everybody wants to succeed. No question about that. But are you really willing to put all the sacrifices that you may need, all the things? And of course, if you enjoyed it, and of course, if all the effort you put, you don't consider it a sacrifice but as fun, things are so much easier. Now, in chess, you have to be aware of some things. Now, you're going to lose a lot in the beginning. And by a lot, I mean a lot, and again and again and again and again. You should not be affected by the meaning. You should not feel sad. You should not feel devastated. You should not feel humiliated or that you're crushed. Losses are a part of the game. And the worst losses are what I call the devastating. What do I mean by that? If you play with a much, much better player, and from move number 5, they take an advantage and gradually they beat you, well, that is to be expected. But if you have an exciting game where little by little you are gaining the advantage, and finally, just when you're going for the knockout blow, oops, you forgot a back rank mate to put, for example, who knows what else, and suddenly you lose out of nowhere, that can be devastating. Imagine you have an opponent that is stronger, and little by little by little, you are minimizing the gap. And finally, when you become equal or even better than them and you're going to win, one moment that you are careless and everything is lost. This can be devastating, but you should not be affected. To succeed in chess, we must be cool and ignore devastating losses. Oh, you're winning! You're surrounding the enemy king. Finally, time for the mate, but just because you're going to deliver it, stalemates. The opponent was able to trick you to stalemates. Can be devastating, but it's part of the game. It happens to everybody. Don't be affected by them. On the other side, don't be too proud and arrogant when you win. It's very natural. You lost so many games. And finally, victory smiles to you. Sometimes can be because your opponent suddenly blundered. But when you win, it's also part of the game. It does not mean that you're a superior human being, and it should not make you arrogant and believe that now you know everything. Losses and wins are part of the game. Arrows. Now, it's very natural when you win to think it's because of your own skill and greatness, but when you lose, you're not lucky. If only you had been a little bit more careful, if only you had not been distracted, if only you had not been so tired, or if only. Well, forget about the if onlys. You lost a game, admit that you lost it. It was your own error, your own responsibility, and try to learn from them. Of course, there is a saying that when I lose, I learn, but I wish I had learned much less. But really, when you lose, it's time to look back to the game and see what were the mistakes you made and try to see why did you make them. If you don't know something and you got hit by something you don't know, okay, you can learn it. But what if it was something that you knew very well? Why did you make this mistake? And of course, try to be objective with yourself. These are some characteristics that one must display outside the chessboard. Of course, I should also mention, in addition to playing, one should also study. Today, there are plenty of resources on the internet, books, magazines. Myself, I'm subscribing to three chess magazines. The one is the Chess Life. This is a magazine that, if you're a member of the United States Chess Federation, they give it to you for free. It's included in the dues. I'm also subscribing to the British magazine Chess and to the French magazine Europe-Check. And in addition, I follow chess courses like all the wonderful courses that chess.com offers, especially if you're a full member, and other courses as well. But this is part of the traits outside the chessboard. And of course, doing problems, chess problems is great. Now, one needs to be careful with chess problems that you know there is a solution. If they give you a problem to solve, you know there's a solution, and this makes things easier. On the chessboard, you never know if there is a solution or not. But let's continue now to the personality traits inside the chessboard and during the game. Begin with respect your opponent, and your opponent is not your enemy. Your opponent has a legitimate right to try to win. But during the game, you need complete concentration on these 64 squares of the chessboard. Ignore any distraction. Don't look at the games that's happening at the nearby tables or how others are doing. If you hear any sounds, ignore them. Don't look at your opponent. It doesn't matter if your opponent is young, old, ugly, or attractive, or anything like that. You only care about the move they're playing. When it's time to move, take your time, especially if you have the time. And of course, try to avoid being in time trouble. But really take your time. Don't always take the obvious. Don't do the obvious move. For example, your opponent took one of your pieces and you can easily grab it back and have an exchange. But could there be an in-between move that can give you even more material? It's easy to miss it. Did your opponent leave a piece unprotected by mistake? Make sure you take advantage of these mistakes. Also, when you play, you don't only have plans, your opponent has plans. Consider them and try to stop them if you can. And always expect your opponent to play the best possible moves. Don't start thinking, oh, if they don't see it, oh, if they don't see that. Well, at the early levels, when you're new in chess and your opponents are weak, this can happen quite often and perhaps it pays. But as you go on, the opponents will make fewer and fewer mistakes, and you'll be lucky if they make just one huge mistake per game. So expect them to play the best possible move. Now, let's assume you started the game a little by little by little, or even suddenly. If your opponent makes a huge mistake, you have the advantage. You have extra material, or your pieces are much freer and have much more scale than your opponent's. Your opponent is squeezed, and or you have a pawn ready to promote, or something like that. Now it's not time to relax, but it's time to focus even more. You should not let win slip through your fingers. It's very easy to happen because your opponent, if you don't resign, most likely they'll try their best to see how to stop you. And make sure that even the small accuracy can cost you the game. For example, you are so sure you had this. back rank mate, you might even have sacrificed material, but suddenly out of nowhere the opponent brings his bishop from the other end of the board, covers the check, and you're down in material. Or who knows what. That's why when you're ahead, you have to be extremely cautious. It's time to think again and again and again on every move. What are the possible replies of your opponent? Now that happens if you are ahead, but what if you are behind? Things started being bleak. You lost material, or you have less space than your opponent, or your opponent is ready to promote, or who knows what. No time to despair. What you should try to do is set problems for your opponent. Now, let's assume that you've checked and the best play your opponent is going to win, meaning if they don't make any mistakes, they can easily win. Now, what should you do? There's a if. If they don't mistakes, is it possible for your opponents to make mistakes? They could, but how? Try to see the board the other way around. What mistakes could you make? What you may miss? The opponent is too excited, perhaps, ready for the final blow, and they may have missed something. And just when they are ready to mate you in 2-3 moves, suddenly out of nowhere, you checkmate them. Things can happen, especially at the lower levels, but even at the high levels it can happen. But at the lower levels, they happen very frequently. When you're done in material, always try to set problems for your opponent and try not to resign, definitely not prematurely. It doesn't mean you lost a piece and it's time to resign. Not at our level. You lost a piece, you try to see can the rest of my pieces do a better job, be more active, set traps to the opponents. And sometimes, even if you're down material, you may objectively be ahead because, yes, you lost material by accident, but it could have been a great sacrifice had you done it on purpose. Now, these are some of the traits, of the characteristics that can help you succeed in chess. Of course, I need to tell you, I'm not here to preach to you or to teach you. This is my personal opinion. I'm open to any comments. We can discuss more if you like. But once again, thanks for watching. We're going to continue with other issues about chess and go into more details. Excuse me. Go into more details, and I'm going to present some of the tournament games I'm going to play. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching once again. This is Karilaos Anaziris, and this is grecochess. Goodbye.